waiting to get underway with the very last games of the last match here at GP London. What's up? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the final here at GP London. Marcelino Freeman facing off against Steve Rubin. And in the booth, it's my good friend and colleague Simon Gertzen. My name's Riley, and it's our great pleasure to bring you the finals of this wonderful tournament we've had the privilege to explore this weekend. And Marcelino Freeman's deck is on your screen. Very aggressive indeed, Simon.
Yep. We've been talking about how this is an aggressive format, and Marcelino Freeman, he definitely took that very literally. 4 Scoundrels, 2-1 with the wind, only 2 cards that cost more than 3. I love this deck. 15 lands, by the way.
Yeah, he's really gone very, very deep. It's a lean, mean fighting machine. Steve Rubin, however, he's got an incredible top end here, and he's assembled the Wombo combo that we all love to see so much here, Simon.
Yeah, 4-1 of the Empire, one of the best first picks in the format, if you ask me. And the combo with Polyraptor is more cute than anything else. But with 2 Knight of the Stampede, Polyraptor actually becomes quite castable.
We're going to see exactly how things go between these two players. You can see them there. Cool, calm, collected, both of them. The picture of readiness. And Steve Rubin, certainly the better-known player going into this tournament. But Marcelino Freeman, what a weekend he's had, Simon.
Absolutely, and we already had a pretty nice winner's interview with him. He was very honest about what his deck is trying to do. Of course, it's a one-trick pony. It is just trying to overwhelm the opponent before they draw these removal spells. He said, had Seth had something like a Pyre's Interdiction or Walk the Plank, he could have easily lost with his all-in strategy, but he didn't. So that's why we see him here in the finals.
Freeman certainly all in on this tempo play here as he sends Steve Rubin's 2-drop packing back up to the hand. And Rubin, I mean, he's going to have to cobble together a defense here because this is an early onslaught from Freeman, and this tempo game is really exactly what he wants to be doing with these early drops, Simon.
I agree. And the nice thing about this matchup is that it's absolutely clear who's the aggressor and who's the defender, who's the control deck. So the roles are absolutely clear. If Steve can survive long enough, if he can keep evasive threats at bay, he will win the long game, almost definitely.
Marcelino Freeman, as you mentioned, a bit of a one-trick pony, but what it does very well. Grasping Scoundrel, the emblematic card of his deck. 15 lands, 4 one-drop creatures that attack for 2, and I tell you what, he's going to hustle and bustle today in attempting to knock Steve Rubin out of contention here. I mean, a trophy piece of hardware for Freeman. He's come all the way over from Mexico here. I understand he's playing the Pro Tour next week, and he's done incredibly well to find himself here in the final. Steve Rubin, of course, he's well known indeed. A number of quite stunning accomplishments to his name, and his trophy cabinet already well set up. But he'd be very welcome. He'd be welcoming of a new piece of hardware for it. This is a nice one here to stem the bleeding a little bit, Simon.
Yeah, actually a great card to defend or attack with, but actually best on defense. The New Horizons means that he's getting 2 3/3s on turn 4. Marcelino now needs something, of a plan, although actually Dinosaur Hunter can attack into these dinosaurs without much problem.
Yeah, but I mean, the Crested Herd Caller is excellent to stabilize it. You know, it goes wide. It's certainly better than a 6/6 in this situation against something like a Dinosaur Hunter. But, trading off the 3/3 token against the Hunter is not the worst situation in the world for Freeman, or for Rubin, I should say. And I think he just wants the board nice and empty. Well,
the thing is, how do you deal with the Captain's Hook this turn and in the later stages? Because whenever you kill a creature that's equipped with the hook, you will, it will just get equipped to the next one. But at the same time, it does deal the most damage to you.
Well, it looks like Rubin is going to tussle with this Grasping Scoundrel. So the Scoundrel's job as captain of the ship is very short-lived. Siren Lookout comes down, and Explore will result in a +1/+1 counter being placed on it. And look at this. There's a new captain of this ship. The Siren Lookout becoming an enormous big beater here. Flying and Menace. No blocking to be done by Steve Rubin in the short term here.
So the moment you equip the hook, you actually cut off the arm?
Yeah, that's it. And then if you remove it, then they bleed out everywhere horribly.
That's really terrible, but
It's very awful.
it is a great card.
I mean, even worse considering that it's a perfectly legal play to apply a Captain's Hook to a horse in this format.
Okay, Steve is doing a really good job stabilizing here. He's now has to deal with what is it going to be, a 4-2 menace next turn?
Mhm.
That should be doable.
It's doable, yeah. Steve Rubin doesn't have a lot of life to play with here. The 21st ranked player in the world is only on 6, but now that he's got 2 blockers, Simon, if Marcelino Freeman doesn't have more threats to consistently put on the board here, but I don't know, with all these bounce spells and ways to interact sneakily here, Freeman may be able to push through these final points of damage, especially if he's got a way to attack, equip, and keep Rubin off any blocks.
I mean, double blocking a Dinosaur Hunter is also not something you want to be doing. This kills both blockers.
Oh dear. Oh dear, because it assigns one damage to the herd caller, which is more than enough.
Yep, you just assign 2 to the knight and the rest to the dinosaur.
Yeah, and that's it. So a nice tidy little 2-for-1 there for Marcelino Freeman. We'll see what his follow-up play is. I can see a Die Fleet border. He's happy to take 2 there, yeah.
I don't know if he's really happy about it.
No, he's loving it.
I
He'd want to
think
take 3.
a pre-combat order would have been a border would have been a bit better there.
Down to 18 here for Freeman, and Rubin going to have to tread very carefully to keep himself above water here.
Now he's just a single point of life away from death if he doesn't have something to stop menace, or if there's a 1 with the wind waiting for him, that's it.
Rubin, 5 mana available to him. He needs some kind of stabilization play. The herd caller didn't quite get there. Well, I mean, it did a good job of holding off the onslaught, but that Fathom Fleet border is going to crack in for a huge whack.
Menace feels like one of the most important keywords in this limited format.
Yeah.
Being forced to double block is a really high cost.
Yeah, it's an interesting twist on the usual evasion. I mean, it gives you more options to block against something traditionally like flying, but there are so many situations where you can be heavily punished for double blocking.
But still, it's more interactive than purely unblockable creatures. I think Menace is a much better design than unblockability.
Look at this. Rubin is committed to taking 5 from this border. He's going to go down to 1.
And he actually knew about this. He knew that the Recaller was in Marcelino Freeman's hand from an earlier Explorer. I think this might just be it.
Oh, no. What can Rubin do here? He can't do anything, packs up the cards, and Marcelino Freeman picks up an early one here. An adoring crowd going berserk here as he picks up his first win in game number 1. Steve Rubin is back against the wall. A very, very quick game there from Marcelino Freeman. That's what he wants to do. That's what Freeman wants to do. Early pressure, get on the board, play that tempo game, and ensure that Rubin doesn't have the time that he needs to deploy his big threats. I mean, I don't want to, peg too much on what happened in game number 1, but Freeman has to be pretty heavily favoured.
I agree, yeah. Steve Rubin is actually one of the slower decks at the table. Marcelino Freeman is easily the fastest deck at the table, but he needs his key cards, and I think he needs to draw at least 1/1 with the wind or the Captain's Hook to really punish these players that are just trying to control the board at all costs.
We did see those slides of the decks before, and we might actually have another look at them here while the players are sideboarding. They do have access to the lists of the pools that their opponents are playing, not the deck lists as we have. A bit of movie magic, going to bring them up on the screen for you right here, right now. So what I'm looking for here, Simon, is defensive options that mean that Steve Rubin can ensure he gets to that late game. Knight of the Stampede as a 2/4 is an excellent one there, but I think he needs to get on the board very, very early and trade off with things like Hardy Veteran.
Yep, but if you look at the creatures he's playing, he's playing as many dinosaurs as possible, but these cards are actually not the greatest defenders. Sun-Colored Raptor, Frilled Death Spitter, Oraska Fullback, that's actually, these are made for attacking.
Yeah, this is exactly what's going on here. Rubin is not going to be able to stabilize the board very effectively until he gets to these higher costing cards, but having said that, a card that's going to help him a long way is something like Thunderherd Migration. Get that one on turn 2. All of a sudden, these big expensive blockers are coming down a bit earlier. Raging Swordtooth may be coming down, cleaning away some of those grasping scoundrels. Rubin's not dead in the water here by any stretch.
No, absolutely not. And I do expect his curve to become even lower after sideboarding.
Okay.
He knows what he's up against. I can't really see him keeping something like Polyraptor in his main deck against a 15-land, blue-black evasion aggro deck.
Yeah, he's going to be leaning on things like Raging Swordtooth, as we mentioned. I mean, even Forerunner of the Empire does so much heavy lifting against a deck like this. I mean, let's have a look at it here. Grasping Scoundrel as an X1 goes down any way you like when we've got stuff like Swordtooth out on the prowl. And I mean, a Shipwreck Looter is also dead to that. But I mean, there's nothing in here that stands out as a real all-star, apart from, I would say, probably the Captain's Hook here, right? This is a deck that is made of very many small moving parts. The curve stops at 4. And, I mean, as you mentioned, it's got one game plan. It's very good at what it does, Simon, but if that doesn't work out for Freeman, he's going to be in hot water.
Exactly. You want to see those pump spells, and then once you have a huge threat, it's actually rather easy with this deck. If you have 3 Crashing Tides and a Deadeye Recaller, you will get in these points of damage.
So, Rubin now on the play, which is going to help him as well. Freeman obviously opening things up in game number 1, considering his seeding of being 3rd.
I think we can already see a plummet in his hand. So that's one of the ways for Steve to punish Marcelino for casting one with the wind.
Yeah, that's very techie from Rubin. He's going to enjoy that benefit further down the track, you would imagine. Tillanali's Knight the play here for Freeman. And I mean, do you just snap off the trade here?
This is a difficult question. It depends on your hand. If you see any chance of racing, then you should take it. Because just playing creatures and blocking is not going to win you the game. Then a Captain's Hook comes down, and you're just left without blockers. So
this is fantastic.
Yeah, I think this is actually great.
And this also explains the fact that he just took 2 there.
And he might just have a dinosaur next turn, attack for 4 with the Knight. He's racing faster than Freeman almost.
Well, Freeman gets in for 4. He's not going to let Steve Rubin get too far ahead here. Forerunner of the Coalition, another way to apply pressure. What's he going to find here?
Grasping Scoundrel?
Grasping Scoundrel certainly an option, but no, it is the Rig Hauler here, and that's a great option to reset that Tillanali's Knight.
It also forces Steve to be a bit more defensive, most likely.
Mm-hmm. I really like this card, Rig Hauler. We've talked about it throughout this weekend. It's a very fair and balanced Magic card, and I like the twist on the Mana War effect that can only happen after attacks have already been done. It can't clear out the way. Can't clear a blocker out the way.
Yep, it's a really nice card in that regard.
Raging Swordtooth is going to clean up that Scoundrel, just like we said here, Simon. And it's also a very impressive blocker as a 5/5. Rubin is right in this game.
But Rubin is not attacking here. That I would be very surprised if we see an attack.
Not going to get him with the 4/4 there?
The problem is, what do you do if the Dinosaur Hunter attacks next turn?
Yeah, that's true.
Then you're giving your opponent a raid trigger at no cost, because you don't want to trade your 5/5 for the 2/2, but then it gets bounced and the situation just got worse. And that's why Steve didn't have an attack there.
So River Data now, that is a nice evasive creature, but stonewalled once again by the Tillanali's Knight. I tell you what, Rubin, the fact that he's not playing mono dinosaurs is actually a huge benefit right now.
We're literally watching Pirates against Dinosaurs in the finals of the GP.
That's it, but Rubin's very lucky that he has a couple of humans holding down the fort as well, given the River Data and the Dinosaur Hunter here. Stormfleet Swashbuckler comes down as well. No, getting pretty close to ascending as well now with 8 permanents. One of the conversations throughout this weekend is the fact that Ascension is a lot more reachable than we first thought when evaluating this set. I think that the City's Blessing was something that people didn't anticipate regularly having, Simon, but for you, I know you think 10 permanents is the perfect sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think almost all the Ascent cards are better than we initially thought, which is saying quite something.
Steve Rubin now. Fire Cannon Blast to blow up the Dinosaur Hunter. He respects it. You can see it's very good against his deck.
Yeah, in a vacuum, the ability of the Forerunner is better than that of Dinosaur Hunter, but if you want to attack with a 5/5 here, you just can't have this pseudo Death Touch creature stick around.
Yep, so he gets in with the 5/5. It's got Trample, of course, so blocks would be rendered pretty inefficient here from Freeman. He's got a bit of life to play with, though, Marcelino.
Yeah. Marcelino has drawn a third of the lands in his deck,
Oh, dear.
flooding out pretty badly.
Yeah, he doesn't want too many more than, 3 or 4, really. He's got 2 4-drops in his deck, and that's the top of his curve.
No, actually, he would like to just win the game with 3 lands in play.
Yeah.
If the opponents let him, that is.
Attacks now. This is suspicious. Highly suspicious, you would think. Rubin is going to have the option to, well, on the face of it, eat up one of these creatures. Do you block here, Simon?
I think yes. Especially the forerunner of the coalition, you don't want that to stick around. But keep in mind that deck lists are public, so Rubin knows about the tricks that are available to Marcelino here.
Now, Rubin doesn't know the exact configuration of Freeman's deck, but he does indeed know the card pool. And, of course, after sideboarding, anything can change, anything could happen. So, Rubin right now going through a mental list of the cards he knows that Freeman possibly could have.
Yeah, and you don't want to expose yourself to an easy 2-for-1. So if you block with both creatures and you know your opponent has a Skullduggery, that would be disastrous. But blocking with one creature is usually pretty safe bet.
I mean, you're going to just trade 1 for 1, right? You're going to force them to have the trick
either way.
at a mana disadvantage, but still, just forcing Freeman to deploy a trick here is at least worth something.
But also you're forcing them to have something, knowing that they are holding a raid creature that they want to deploy.
Okay. So, Moment of Craving is going to save the river data, gain Freeman a little bit of life, and the board looking a little closer to parity, and now a Charter Course is a nice way for Freeman to refuel.
Yeah, effectively also a raid card, of course. Ooh, and Steve is flooding out a little bit. Of course, focused on early game interaction, focused on dealing with flyers should Marcelino ever find that one with the wind, but Marcelino didn't draw this card, so he's currently not in danger of being punished by it. I think Marcelino might be turning this around. He has 4 spells. One of them is an instant speed, a flash Crashing Tide.
Oh, of course, River Data being a merfolk, and we can see Rubin there happy to slam and jam with that 5/5. It can't block the River Data.
And there's something awkward going on as well. If you bounce the 5/5, you can't really play Shipwreck Looter because it would just die to the trigger. So what you would want to do is you would want to start with the Recall, I assume. Oh, no.
Okay. Well, Shipwreck Looter here. Draw a card, discard a card. Fathom Fleet board at the draw for Freeman here. Has to discard. He's got 2 copies of the border in hand.
Ooh, that's an aggressive line. I think that must mean that he wants to keep the Sword Tooth around for another turn and just deploy more threats to the battlefield.
So, border number 1 hits the bin. Border number 2 takes up its place on the battlefield. Occupational health and safety not at the forefront of the Fathom Fleet in terms of how they carry their swords around. Asking for trouble there. In any case, we're back to Steve Rubin now, who does have some, a more defensive posture to adopt here.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the right tools for the job. It's really cool how Marcelino put him in a position where if he attacks, he's already facing down 7 points of damage, which would mean a bounce spell is critical. But if he doesn't attack, he doesn't deal 5 damage, and a bounce spell is still disastrous for him. So that is actually a really nice position for Marcelino.
Crashing Tide goes back upstairs here, and that's going to clear the way, as you mentioned here, for a big attack for the Mexican.
He might have drawn a second Crashing Tide off of that.
1, 2, and 3 creatures. Drawing close here. Steve Rubin down to 5. Can he find a way to stabilize the board? Raging Swordtooth, a good option here for him to clear out that 2-1. It's a lot of lands here, Simon. A lot of lands. What else can he do? Okay. Raging Swordtooth. And now, a Fanatical Firebrand.
You would think that that's good against an aggro deck, but 2-3 toughness creatures on Freeman's side of the board. He can't even, if any of those had 2 toughness, he would be able to combine it with the trigger, but he doesn't.
But he doesn't have it. And so, Marcelino Freeman poised here with 3 cards in hand. Rubin holding onto a plummet, which is doing stone cold nothing.
Rubin is thinking about attacking here. And this game would be a lot closer had he swung for 5 when he had the chance.
Yeah. But he's played more defensively. It's, of course, his role in this matchup is to be a defender, and the Fanatical Firebrand is going to stay at home here. Freeman, 4 cards in hand. One of them's a swamp.
Rubin is hoping that Marcelino draws and casts one with the wind.
Yes.
He wants him to draw that card.
Doesn't look like he has it, though.
No, he's drawing Crashing Tides instead, which is not what Rubin wants to see.
So, an attack now with the River Data. If Rubin wants to block, he has to use his Fanatical Firebrand. He cannot block with the Raging Sword Tooth. And Rubin's going to do it.
It's really nice how this flavor text is actually relevant.
Did he not sacrifice to...
He announced it. He just said take one.
Okay. All right. And the Rig Hauler sends the Sword Tooth back upstairs. And now Steve Rubin has to find a way forward. This Raging Sword Tooth has been flipping up and down from his hand to the battlefield like a yo-yo here. But Rubin is having to fight so hard to keep himself into this. Freeman is going from strength to strength. The 3rd appearance of the Raging Sword Tooth and Simon Gertzen. This is a key play.
Yes, because otherwise another bounce spell on Raging Sword Tooth would have closed the game out. But now Marcelino needs to deal with smaller creatures, which his bounce is certainly worse again.
And one with the wind. Oh no, for Steve Rubin. Heartbreaking stuff, holding onto the plummet all game and then tapping out to cast the Jungle-born Pioneer, Marcelino Freeman. I tell you what, Simon Gertzen, he picked his moment.
To draw one with the wind, that was punished to the largest degree.
Oh, Steve Rubin had the plummet in hand from the very beginning. He was poised to make the most of it, tapping out to stabilize the ground, and unfortunately for him, losing in tragic circumstances. But congratulations, Marcelino Freeman, the champion here at GP London. As we welcome you back to the booth here, Riley Knight alongside Simon Gertzen, an absolute... I mean, I don't know how to describe the end of this tournament. What a twist in the tail there. Steve Rubin holding onto the plummet, knowing he had to play around one with the wind the entire time. He takes one turn off to stabilize the ground. And, of course, Freeman rips the hottest and freshest pepperoni right off the top of the library. Simon Gertzen, what a conclusion to the tournament.
Absolutely. A great deck. Actually, both players had great decks, but I think the blue-black deck was the more innovative one. We've seen one with the wind decks before, but this is kind of the Rivals of Ixalan version. And I have to say, this should give the Pro Tour players something to think about.
Something to think about for sure. This is a very aggressive 15-land mono 1-drop deck, and we're going to talk to its architect right here and right now, Marcelino Freeman.
Hey.
Congratulations to you, the champion here at GP London. What a performance for you, mate. Talk to us about what's going through your head and your heart right now.
Thank you. Well, I'm very happy, to be honest. I expected to draft something good. Next week I'm going to Bilbao, and I said, okay, the GP should be a good practice draft. And well, here I am.
Yeah.
So I'm insanely happy, to be honest. And I don't know what else to say. I'm shocked. I am in a good way, to be honest.
You would hope so.
Yeah. And I'm very happy, and I will try to look for the decks. I mean, what you were saying about the 1-drops, it's a strategy that I think can work a lot because, like you said, the one with the wind decks existed with Ixalan, but with Rivals, I think there are new ways. And, well, I am astonishingly happy. So, thanks, everybody.
Well, fantastic stuff from you, mate. Let's talk about this deck a little bit here. I mean, going into the draft process throughout the entire day, too, you've done 3 drafts today. Is this an experiment for you? Is this an innovation that you've come across before, or are you pretty set on this Grasping Scoundrel deck? Is it something you've tried out?
Not really. I really like blue with Rivals and Ixalan. I really like Crashing Wave. I think it's too much tempo for 3 mana to draw a card and bounce a big guy. So my 2 drafts in day 2 were Merfolks. They were not so good, but they had tempo, and at the end it worked. And when I started here, I wanted the thing is, everybody wants to open a Chupacabra or a Climbing Phoenix or something like that. But the truth is, if I open, for example, Bombard and Crushing Wave, I would seriously consider to take the Crushing Wave instead of the Bombard. I don't know if it's the right choice or not. A lot of people say it's not, but I think that the tempo plays, always in limited, you have very limited resources. The truth is, you don't have too much cards. So anything that can to himself and gives you a boost and a tempo, I think works a lot. So the truth is, I experimented with the 1-drops and the one with the wind. I had no idea about the one with the winds. I thought maybe one I would wheel and to see what happens. That's why I took the 1-drops. I was expecting more Pirate Cutlass and I had the Captain Hook. But one with the wind worked along very fine. And yeah, the strategy was when I had 3 Crushing Waves and I started sowing the 1-drops. That was the strategy, like 1-drop, 2 1-drops, and then Crushing Wave and see what happens. And it works off well.
Well, it's all come together for you here in the tournament, Simon.
Well, yeah. Marcelino, congratulations also from my side.
Thank you.
Were you aware of the sideboard options that Steve had when you went into game 2? For example, a plummet as a way to deal with your creatures?
Yeah, I saw he had a plummet. I'm not sure if he was running or leaving the Tyranny's Crown that could kill a 1-drop. I mean, it's a pumper, but it's also a removal. He played it when we drafted, and I knew he had it. And the truth is, if you saw the game, I top decked the one with the wind when we was tap out because my plan was to keep bouncing, like you saw. He had a very expensive creature, which was the Raging Swordsmith. So it was like hitting 3, hitting 5, and bouncing. If I didn't draw the one with the wind, the plan was to bounce again the Raptor, swing in, and if he plays it again, then try to bounce it again or do something else. But when he tapped out for the one with I said, okay, if I draw one with the wind, I win on the spot. And it happened. So it was nice.
Well, let's. I don't know if you're quite aware of what was in Steve Rubin's hand at the end there, but he was indeed actually holding on to the plummet the entire time like this, and he took one turn to tap out to shore up the ground there, and you picked your moment. I mean, was this something you were deliberately playing around, or was just how it shook out?
I mean, I would haven't played the one with the wind on my biggest threat if he had mana open because of the plummet. I knew he had it in because that's the way that my deck works. So if he just plummets, I lose. So if he had mana open, I wouldn't definitely have played one with the wind. I would have to stick with the plan of bouncing and keep hitting on. So it was a fortunate type of events. But yeah, I had in mind that he had the plummet. I didn't know if he had it in his hand. But the thing is, playing Magic, a lot of people say that I play too safe. I'm a little bit paranoid most of the time. Sometimes I even play around 3 pump spells to don't lose or things like that. It costs me games sometimes. But I'm too cautious. That's my style play, so I really consider the plummet the whole time.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. Now you've got a very convincing argument as to why you should be that careful. You've got a beautiful trophy in your hands. You've got 10,000 reasons to smile in the back pocket. And I'll tell you what, you've done very well to snag yourself a GP championship. Congratulations, Marcelino Freeman. You've done incredibly well. Well done indeed.
Thank you. Sorry.
Go on, mate.
No, I hope to keep getting the lucky streak for next week.
Yes, best of luck. We'll see you at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. Very much looking forward to seeing if fortunes favour you over in Bilbao. Well done to the champion of GP London, Marcelino Freeman. He's done incredibly well. And I tell you what, a truly dramatic end to a tournament that I think we've really taken quite a number of lessons away from, Simon.
Yeah, I think this format is very different from Ixalan only. The ascent mechanic has been very, very relevant. We see all the tribes represented. Dinosaurs needs a bit more work. People have to figure out how to build the best decks, but pirates, merfolk, vampires, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see the way that both Ascend decks are explored next week at the Pro Tour, and of course these aggressive decks, because we had the Calculator Special. Christian Calcano was slapping swashbuckling onto creatures before it was cool, and this archetype, I mean, it fell off the radar somehow in Ixalan draft, but now we've got a GP champion who is running 4 copies of Grasping Scoundrel. He obviously knows what's up, and I'm very intrigued to see how things shake out in Bilbao. So we're going to close the broadcast very shortly. Any highlights for you that stick out this weekend? What's the big takeaway for you?
I think the big takeaway is that there's a wide range of decks you can play. You can be a very cautious 15-land aggro player, or you can go really deep and play 2-color, 3-color Ascend and just win because at some point in the game, all your cards are that much better than your opponents.
Well, this tournament has certainly set the stage for the continued exploration of Rivals of Ixalan, in addition to the modern format, ladies and gentlemen, next week in Bilbao. But of course, there's plenty more Magic coming your way this weekend over in Grand Prix Houston. stateside on the other side of the Atlantic. Corbin Hostler is over there bringing you all the stats and facts about what's going on the other side of the ditch. And you can jump on dailymtg.com to get across what he's up to, in addition to Twitter, of course, is another way to find out what's going on there. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time to wrap things up here. All good things must come to an end. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to the success of the weekend. Of course, the judging staff, the tournament organisers, but most of all, of course, you around the world, wherever you are, for having joined us. On a personal note, the people that I have the privilege to work with week in, week out. Simon Gertzen alongside me, Tim Willoughby and Matej Zadelkai also in the booth, Neil and Stephen on the floor, Rashad behind the desk, Frank and Toby on the writer's desk, and of course, the inestimable Mr. Rich Hagan holding this whole thing together. My salutations go out to all of them, and thank you very much to all of them and to you for, of course, helping me enjoy having the best job in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all she wrote today, sports fans. It's been a great pleasure to have you along as we've explored GP London, but it is in the books and it's time for us to all go home and get some rest. Thanks so much for joining us this weekend. We will see you back here at the home of Magic before very much longer, but for right now, it's Riley Knight on behalf of the entire coverage team saying good night from London.